Hello everyone and welcome to Knife Craze. Today we're going to be taking a look at a fixed blade knife. In front of you here is the Mtech MT-20-35. Now, the overall length of this knife is about 8 inches with a blade length of, about 4.5 inches with a sharpened area of about 4 inches and 1/4 of an inch. Now, the stainless steel that this knife uses is unknown to me. All I have to go on is right there on the blade where it says stainless steel, USA design, handcrafted in China. So right off the bat, that should tell you that this is indeed a very cheap knife. However, like the first video I uploaded of that small Mtech folding knife, this knife also happens to be a hidden gem amongst a rather cheap and shoddy brand of knives. Saying that, I'm sure you're wondering, what do you mean? How much did this thing even cost? Well, I'll tell you, this thing cost me $11 and no cents on Amazon.ca about, I want to say, half a year ago. And now you're going to be saying, and I can hear it right now, Steve, that's a really crappy knife. For 11 bucks, that's such shit. If you spent 10 more, you could get a Mora. Well, I have a Mora, and let me tell you, this thing is very similar in size to that knife, and both are surprisingly good knives. Now, this one in particular surprised me because I bought it, I didn't have high expectations for it, but then something happened. A fellow YouTuber of mine and friend, Fat Horse Productions, he released a review of this knife, and then he released a field testing review, and the results he got from that review were absolutely breathtaking. Here is this cheap $10 knife, and all of a sudden, it's batoning wood without the blade chipping, it's making feather sticks without the blade rolling over, and it's being thrown around without it breaking. And I thought, how is this possible? Well, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't know how a knife this cheap and from Mtech can work that well, but let's get into the detail. So, with the sheath out of the way now, we can talk about the knife and its details. So, as I mentioned, it has a blade length which is about 4.5 inches long, and as you see, it's a drop point, so it helps bring the tip down to a sharper point. Now, this isn't the sharpest point knife I have, but there is a point on there, so if you do need a knife for penetration purposes, this will work just fine. Well, not only that, it does have jimping along the back of the grip and blade here, so if you want to get more control over the blade, you have that on there for that. And the nice thing about this jimping is, and keep in mind all types of jimping are different, some are really harsh on your finger, some are too light and they let your fingers slip. This is just perfect. It's been sanded down enough so it's not cutting into you, but at the same time it's providing enough grip so your finger doesn't slip. The handle I really like I've said in my other videos, if I did say it, I have medium-sized hands, and this grip works perfectly for me. All the finger grooves line up perfectly for my hand, and they even added a little section onto the blade here just to make sure that it's a little harder than normal for your finger to slip and get cut on that blade. And they even added an extra section of the tang here to accommodate your pinky finger. And back there, there's also more jimping. And I'm sure, as you can see, it also has a lanyard hole down here. So maybe you're in a paracord, maybe you like to make paracord ornaments for keys or lanyards. You can maybe put one of those on here, which I think is kind of a cool idea. Not only that, the knife, yes, is full tang. Now, while the blade is quite thin, it's about, let me just get my measuring tape here. It's about, well, it's less than 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm not good at reading the small measurements. That's right, I'm bad at math. A lot of people are. Point is, the blade is thin. However, it doesn't feel wobbly or loose at all. And being full tang, that's another added bonus to this being a cheap knife. You're already paying like 10 bucks for it. Now you have a full tang for added strength. So when you're batoning, when you're chopping wood, this knife is going to be able to take it a little bit better. Now, the handle scales are nothing more than plastic. However, they are on there really tight. They're not loose at all. And, I mean, I really think they screwed those on there really tight. Because I try moving these, even when I tap on them, they sound solid. It doesn't sound like these are going to break anytime soon. Now, maybe if you throw this knife around outside or throw it onto cement, they probably will break. I mean, they're plastic, but so far they've held up. Another nice thing about this knife is that it comes in different colors. Now, there was black, there was pink, there was blue, but I chose orange, and that's because I have a hunter's mindset. When wearing orange outside, especially in the bush, the color orange, especially a bright orange like this, can help you identify things you may have lost. So let's say I was out in the bush, I was batoning some wood, and I thought, hey, I gotta go get some more wood. Now, I would never leave my knife alone. I'd always have it on me at all times. But let's say I forgot, and I said, okay, jab it into a log. That fell over, whatever. But I jab it into a log, or I drop it on the ground. I go and get more firewood. Hey, where's my knife? Well, there's something orange in the grass. There it is. That's why I chose the orange color. And like I said, on Amazon, they're still selling this knife. It comes in different colors. There's pink. There's like a light blue. There's black, there's orange, and I think there's a green. So yeah, you got actually a fair range of colors to choose from for your handle skills. Now, getting into the sheath. Oh god, here we go. So the sheath, can't say anything really good about the sheath. Yeah, it's nylon, it's single stitched, at least you have a button snap, which is better than Velcro, but I actually turned the button snap around instead of doing it up that way. I got tired of it being in the way of the knife. In fact, when the strap is closed over the knife's handle, it doesn't even hold the knife in there anyway. Okay. And I kind of put it back here, and now it's stuck. Can't get undone. All right. The belt loop isn't even that good either. I mean, now keep in mind that this strap is kind of closing up the belt loop, but when it's open, you have maybe about 3 inches. You know what? That isn't even really bad. My K-bar knife, the belt loop is about 3 inches. Anyway, I'm rambling on about the sheath like an idiot. Point is, the sheath is absolute rubbish. So, yeah. Okay, so on to my personal opinions about this knife. What do I think of this knife from having owned it for about half a year now? I think this knife is amazing. For the cheap price, this is a knife that you can take out into the bush and you won't have to worry about losing it or breaking it, because if it does, you can just go home, hop on your computer, tablet, phone, whatever, go on the Amazon, order yourself a new one. And keep in mind that I'm in Canada, things are a little more expensive, but still, I got this for $11, whereas in the States it's about $10 to $9, depending where you get it from. But on Amazon.ca, Canadian currency, at the time I got it, it was $11. It was not over $12, that's for sure. And you know what? I think it was worth every penny. Have I used this knife? Absolutely. I've took it out to the forested patch behind my house. I've batoned with it. I've used it in the garage for cutting things, and you know what? It held up just fine. My own personal experience from batoning with it, the blade did not chip. It didn't roll over. No damage really occurred to the blade, and all I had to do was sharpen it back up in my garage with a file, and you know what? It was a working knife. And yeah, I know you don't sharpen a knife with a file, but like I said, it's a cheap beater knife. It's something that while I like it, I don't care if it gets damaged. I can buy another one. So I just sharpen it with a file. But in the end, you know, that ruined it, so I used the carbide to sharpen it up again. I enjoy the grip. I enjoy the fact there's a lanyard hole, even though I don't use the lanyard hole. And I enjoy the jimping. Everything on this knife is where it should be, at least for my hand. The jimping is close enough, so I'm not having to stretch my finger to reach it. However, I'm not having to push my finger back to reach it either. It's in just the right place. The grip is the perfect size for my hand, and the handle scales are the perfect width. It doesn't feel too thin or too thick in my hand by any means. The fit and finish on this knife is absolutely fantastic. Nothing is too rough or sticking out or digging into my skin. And now it's time for the rating. Honestly, I give this knife 10 out of 10 stars for a cheap knife. What more could you ask for in a knife that's $11? Edge retention, ease of sharpening. Well, not ease of sharpening, sorry, I gotta take that back. It is kind of hard to sharpen, that's why I use the carbide sharpener to kind of just brute force sharpen it. But yeah, like, what more can you ask for? It's a full tang fixed blade that holds up through batoning and feather sticking, okay? It can hold up being thrown. It has an edge that you can sharpen using carbide or a file, and the edge isn't going to be ruined. It has a lanyard hole. It has finger grooves. It has jimping. For a knife that cheap at 11 bucks, what more could you ask for? So you know what? For a cheap knife, I give this 10 out of 10 stars. If we're talking about your standard run-of-the-mill fixed blade knife, I honestly would still give this around 8 out of 10 stars. And if you're talking about a high quality knife, I give this thing 1 out of 10 stars. But it's a cheap knife and it gets a 10 out of 10 star rating. Anyway guys, there's a review of the Mtech MT-20-35. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. It helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you wish to see better content in the future. And have a good day. See ya.